Hello and welcome back to the next One Piece review and discussion. The next chapter has officially released. We are here and we do have some breaks coming up as well, but I'm glad we are still rolling with things because I'm ready to hear what Vegapunk's message is. And we get the reveal, his first line of the message, and what it is that is going to shake the world. So, I'm looking forward to just jumping straight into this chapter. So, without further ado, chapter 1113, Stalemate. Which, no cover story this week, but a nice tie-in with the title. We have a beautiful colour spread of Robin playing chess with all the other Straw Hats as like the figures. So Luffy is obviously the king, he is in gear 5. We have Nami in the queen position. Brook and Usopp are our bishops. Zoro and Sanji are the knights. And Jinmei and Frankie are our rooks, while we have a lineup of multicoloured choppers as the pawns. So that's kind of a nice little tie into Stalemate, and I guess it's just cool to see them as chess pieces. I don't know if you have a One Piece chessboard, but we now know who would be what position, so it's kind of cool. But anyway, last we had left off, we had the final culmination in the countdown to Vegapunk's message. And we were left off with Mars heading inside Punk Records itself, finding this new transponder snail that York had told him about. All the other elders had spread out and were in like a final position. They had aligned and they were really sort of like on it with like each mission. Like everyone had an objective, and like Nostoro did his, Pacifistas are done, Saturn's just arriving where Robin and everyone is. We've got Mars here trying to stop the broadcast. Jupiter and Walkyrie are obviously trying to halt Luffy and Dory Broggy, but we don't really see anyone else because we start off this chapter back inside Punk Records, the world's largest brain. And while Vegapunk's message is continuing, he's talking about, this coffee and like we've given people enough time now. That is sufficient time. They've set up their snails. I think we're ready to start. And it's shocker to be like, right, 30 seconds then Stella. And we can see Pythagoras is like, I'm getting nervous now. Like, don't know about anyone else. But we see a bunch of wiring just next to this new transponder snail that was developed, the sort of live streaming one. And Marcus Mars, still in human form, is saying to himself, questioning, is this your true self, Vegapunk? And we see a giant brain inside a huge jar that's got wires and cables, everything plugged in. But it's not just like the brain, it genuinely is still Vegapunk's head. Like, it's still got the skin, the hair's wild, his head is still growing in here because obviously when the data gets sent here, the head continues to expand, so this is almost what looks like max capacity at this point. But he's questioning that, like, what is death to someone as smart as you? Is your consciousness still here? Is this really who you are? So it's kind of interesting because we've saw the stellar body running around, even though he's got the apple as the antenna. Is that just a body, like a puppet at this point? And this is actually like the true Vegapunk, the person who houses like all the information, all the consciousness, all the thought and ideas. But regardless, as the message continues, Marcus Mars is about to just crush this transponder snail. Just going to step on it, as you do. But we actually jump away because as we are this close to the message being revealed, we do our little quick jump around the world just to check in to see where everyone's up to date with to get ready for this message. So first up, we head to Syrup Village. Yes, we're going all the way back to Usopp's hometown, where we see Kaya and those little lads who are like Usopp's pirates, and we can see that they're talking about Vegapunk, and she's telling the story about Vegapunk is a legend in the medical field, and the boys are like enamored by this story, like saying she's a liar, which is obviously the little reference to Usopp's stories, I guess, being a liar, but his stories have come true. But we can see as they're talking about this, they're listening on just a normal transponder snail. They don't have a video one on the island. And as the Marines are saying, this is going to start shortly, we then can see Crocus and Laboon just sat listening, over at Twin Capes, chilling out, maxing and relaxing, ready for this message. We then skip all the way over to Baltimore, the hometown of Vegapunk, where Frankie himself got stranded for 2 years in the time skip. And everyone's like talking like, was this really Vegapunk's hometown? And like old people like, yeah, he's a Baltimore pride and joy. Is he the one responsible for the nightmare? And they were like, no, that was Frankie. So it's a shame we've not got much Frankie Vegapunk interaction. Like, Frankie spent so much of his time on this island in Vegapunk's research. He rebuilt himself pretty much to the cyborg we know now. But we're not getting any connection between the two of them, like any moments, because so much has happened. There's no moments of pause. So I'd like to see something between Frankie and Vegapunk, build something would be fun. But following that, we then come to the Birdie Kingdom, which is where obviously Chopper was stranded in his time skip. And they're all talking about, the king of science, the man Vegapunk, he's so smart, he could make many weapons, the very indigenous people, because it's obviously the birds are the ones like ruling, they're the gods. We then have Hachinosu, where everyone's holding each other at gunpoint, being like, quiet down. He's like, you can't tell me what to do. It's like, Vegapunk's about to speak, we need to listen to this. He's like, yeah, you crossed me earlier, I'm not going to let it slide now. So, same old there, really. And it is then where we hear the final sort of like countdown. And it's like, right, testing, can everyone hear me? Are we all good? And jumping back to Egghead, Marcus Mars steps on the transponder snail, ready to cut off the message, and a hidden normal transponder snail was inside. It was a fake, a decoy, and Marcus Mars goes into a rage. He bursts out of Punk Records, he takes flight to get outside, and he's like, curse you, Vegapunk, how could you do this? He is raging. But at this point, it is too late. Shocker gives Vegapunk the go-ahead, and he says, fine then, let's get started. Without further ado, Vegapunk stealing my line, my opening. But everyone, again, we get brief flashes to other places. I don't know where we are, but everyone seems ready now for the message to listen or watch. And it is Mars's conversation with the Gorosei that is next. This telepathic connection they have with each other. They're checking in to say, Mars, have you stopped the recording? Like, what's happening? And he's like, my apologies. That wretched Vegapunk has, been more cautious than we give him credit for. We can't currently stop the broadcast. It is impossible at this point, and we don't know how much he actually knows. We don't know what his intentions are, but York has told us that he wishes to carry the torch of those O'Haran scholars. This won't be a repeat of Clover. He means to finish what O'Hara started. And we get to see like a shot of every like elder, like their grimace face, like raging with what is about to happen. So Sanji is talking to Vegapunk, being like, look, did you hear that? Bonnie is crying out and I'm going to be the one to save her. And we see that. We can see the horse. We can see Nostoro in the distance. Frankie is currently protecting Bonnie, but Sanji is like, Frankie, out of my way. I'm going to be the one to rescue Bonnie. And he jumps and he bounces off Nostoro's huge sword and does like an uppercut kick straight to the jaw of a 5 elder. And it draws blood. Not that it matters because we know they regenerate at incredible speeds, but a pretty impressive kick. And he's like, look, just because you're senile doesn't think we're going to give you any slack. This is a pirate fight. And then the weirdest thing happens where Nostoro's head catches fire, like it ignites, and bursting from his chest is the horse. So he was still in the like skeletal horse, like hybrid form, where his legs were all skeletal and he was a human upper body. And after the recoil of the kick, the head and his like body is catching fire, and the horse like head explodes from his chest and like grabs hold of Sanji. So that's kind of a weird transformation. But as Vegapunk's message is continuing on in the background, and he is confessing to committing 2 grave sins. Now this is now the second time that Vegapunk has spoken about sins. York did it last chapter and saying, we've racked up enough sins. And now he is saying, I've committed 2 grave sins. We don't know what they are, but again, we're getting that connotation of he's committed sins in some way against someone. And as he is making this confession, Oimo and Kashi grab a hold and grapple Nostoro. Now, these dudes are giants, and Kashi gets the horse in a headlock. And the horse is still huge. Like, it is still rearing and kicking and trying to go for Sanji. And 2 giants are trying to restrain it. Not very well. They've got some hold on it, but we didn't realise how big Nostoro was until this panel here. And it is mad. And we see that Atlas is the one to like catch the stellar body, make sure he's alright. And because of Bonnie's reinstalled like faith in this idea of Nika and seeing Luffy in his form, she gets into her distorted future and becomes a giant-ish future, and goes to stamp down on Nostoro. And Vegapunk carries on. I believe that I will soon be executed for what I have done. But this message has been programmed to broadcast the second my heart stops beating. So, unless we have a way to revive Vegapunk, this body is dead. His heart stopped, the message started. And everyone's reaction's like, you can't be serious, he's dead. Like, what is happening? And Duval's like, wait, he was just in the paper this morning. Don't the Straw Hats have him hostage? Like, what's going on? And we go over to the German kingdom where, Neomancer's been formed, and Caesar's like, you liar, like, how could you do this? We just teamed up as well, we're going to surpass you. And it is Morgan's who's like, this broadcast is actually massive, like, he's trying to kill print media. Like, this is where, like, television takes over, like, newspaper, and he's raging. But the message continues. He's like, I just want to make one thing very clear. Do not assume that the ones who strike me down are evil, regardless of who they seem to be. I don't intend to discuss right or wrong. I am not qualified to judge such things, and I don't know nearly enough about him in any case. Who is Vegapunk referring to here? How are they going to spin Vegapunk's death? And is he trying to get ahead of it by saying, whoever they say kills me, don't believe it, like, don't assume that it was for good or for evil or whatever. But what we do now see is Saturn arriving atop the cloud, ready to attack. And he's like, step aside, you vermin. And Robin, still in like the hovering like stretcher, is like, that voice, I remember it. And back on O'Hara, when Clover spoke to the 5 elders on the transponder snail, she recognises him as one of the 5 elders. And as she recognises that voice, Saturn says, you must be Nico Robin, the woman that Akainu let slip through his fingers, that fool. And Nami's like looking over and is like, wait, what are you talking about? And as the legs rear up, Nami gives the command to protect Robin, and everyone immediately jumps into action. So as Nami grabs a hold of Robin and like pulls her from the stretcher and like jumps away because she's still injured here, Brooke slices one leg, Usopp snipes another. One leg does hit the like floating bed and just annihilates it. Zeus appears from a climb attack and blocks one leg, and Chopper goes into his like fluffy guard point and just blocks a leg, which is pretty good going on Chopper's part to just block a leg like that. But like how quick they were to react to that was incredible. And it is now over to the other elders and what they're doing, specifically Mars, because he's like, look, this is futile. There are too many life forms in the vicinity for me to actually sense any unique telepathic waves. So I'm assuming he's talking about observation and like being able to sense other life forms, but he can't pinpoint which one is a transponder snail, which is given the broadcast. And York is racking her brain like, I've got to think, they won't let me be a celestial dragon, I'm a Vegapunk too, where is it hidden? So I feel like she's probably going to work it out. It just depends how far into the message we are going to get, because Vegapunk, before he finally gives his message now, says, look, it is my duty to ensure that you are aware of this issue. And the 5 elders are talking between each other like, look, we could just destroy the power station. We can just destroy everything now and it'll stop the recording. And everyone else is like, whoa, we can't go and do that. The sacrifice is too much. Eam needs the Mother Flame. We cannot have the power station be destroyed. So they can't just annihilate the island. And Vegapunk says, at the very end of the chapter, I will just cut to the chase. And we see this beautiful shot of Egghead as his words say, our world is going to sink into the ocean. And we see a Marines being like, what? And the final little panel is of the mermaids underneath the sea swimming with fishes. And that is where the chapter ends. Vegapunk's message is out there. The world is going to sink into the ocean. I mean, I certainly didn't predict that was going to be the message. I mean, we've got breaks now, so I don't know if there's going to be more to this message, but certainly interested to find out what actually he's going to say next. This was a good chapter. A lot happened. Anyway, let me know what you think of this chapter. What else is Vegapunk going to say? I will catch you guys next time.